Ladies and gentlemen, William Samoei Arap Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, arrived in Uganda yesterday. And today the President is expected to attend Independence Day celebration in Uganda. But for me, the trip by William Ruto to Uganda is significant, politically speaking, because of several reasons. Number one, Uganda was at the center of 2022 general election in this country. Majority of Raila Odinga supporters believes very strongly that Uganda played a role, especially on the election day, where most of their vehicles were found with election materials. Number two, Yoweri Museveni, the president of Uganda, is a known associate of William Samoei Arap Ruto. As a matter of fact, towards the general election, William Ruto made several trips to Uganda. For those who can recall, in 2019, Museveni even organized for Ruto to launch in Makerere University Dr. William Ruto's Leadership Institute. The idea behind that was to give William Ruto an opportunity to sell himself as a credible candidate. And you also remember that in July, just a few months to the election, in July 2021, not a few months to the election, William Ruto went to Uganda and launched some vaccine manufacturing company. Then in August the same year, William Ruto's trip to Uganda was thwarted by President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So Museveni's role in William Ruto's presidency is significant. And number three, this visit is also coming at a time when Muhoozi Museveni had caused a huge political storm in this country after meeting with President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. So in this video, I want us to look at the objectives of William Ruto's visit to Uganda. Before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, I want you to take a second or two, click the subscribe button, so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Now, let us get back to the main issue. I want us to begin this video by looking at William Ruto's arrival in Uganda. How was he treated? Yoweri Museveni organized for William Ruto the best reception so far he has received any other place. He inspected guard of honor. Later on, William Ruto was at State House with Rachel and the First Lady of Uganda. So for me, that was meant to send a message. William Ruto was actually feeling at home. So that's the first thing which I noted. Number two is the timing of this particular trip. You know, Muhoozi Museveni had made certain posts on his Twitter handle. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Uganda actually told Kenyans that for them they don't respond to social media. Then later on, Kenya insisted on apology. So Yoweri Museveni sent his apology to Kenya. And because of that particular timing, majority of Kenyans will be waiting to see the speeches of Museveni and those of William Ruto tomorrow. Remember, just like I said, there was a time William Ruto was supposed to go to Uganda. And that trip aborted. That was in 2021, August, slightly over a year today. And the question which most Kenyans were asking, why did Uhuru block Ruto? For me at that time, Uhuru blocked Ruto because he felt that Ruto was undermining his presidency. Because as the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, what Ruto ought to have done was to go through the official channel during the trip, which he did do. Again, number two, William Ruto and his team were suspected of money laundering. So Uhuru Kenyatta was fighting, in quotes, money laundering at that particular time. And that's why the Turkish businessman, Aaron Ayadin issue was blown. Then there was also the issue of 2022. Uhuru was with Raila. And Uhuru really wanted Museveni to support Raila. But Museveni was keen on Ruto. So the 2022 politics also made Uhuru to block Ruto from going to Uganda. Then the last reason was that he wanted to provoke Ruto, because there was a way Uhuru would provoke Ruto and then Ruto would speak. So that particular incidence is significant because it's also going to be interpreted in a different perspective. Remember, Muhoozi Museveni also played a role in blocking William Ruto. And in fact, after meeting with Uhuru Kenyatta at some point in Naivasha, Raila Odinga was invited to State House in Kampala in May just this year, a few months to the general election. So the timing of this particular trip, in my view, is significant. But what are the objectives of this particular trip, if I may ask? Because that's the question which most Kenyans are asking. For me, I tend to think that the first objective of this trip is basically to cement the relationship between Kenya and Uganda, especially after the Muhoozi tweets. Remember, in Uganda, Museveni promoted the son in literal meaning, but he removed him from being in charge of land forces. The fact that Muhoozi is a son to Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and he was making such kind of tweets really annoyed Kenyans, including people you'd think would support him like Babu Owino, who ended up castigating him. So I think Museveni is keen on organizing this event, inviting Ruto, so as to try and recreate the relationship between Uganda and Kenya. Number two, I also tend to think that probably it is William Ruto's wider foreign policy. The truth of the matter is that if you look at Kenya and Uganda, there is no clear foreign policy between the two countries. When William Ruto was campaigning, one of the issues, one of the things he really lacked was foreign policy. But the moment he became the president of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto is clearly working on his foreign policy. I can't remember the number of countries William Ruto has gone to, but within this short time, William Ruto has even met with Biden. Within this short time, William Ruto was attended the burial of the Queen. He was in Ethiopia. After Uganda, William Ruto will be in Tanzania. I think William Ruto has now this foreign policy where he's supposed to be, or where he will be expected to go to different countries just to sell himself as Ruto and also to sell himself as the president of the Republic of Kenya. I also tend to think that number three, the other objective of this meeting is basically Museveni's interest in Kenya. You know, there are several issues in Kenya. There's the Kenyatta issue, which was pursuing with Museveni when he was the president. And you saw Museveni going to Naivasha for the SGR. Then, when William Ruto took over, he told everybody that port operations were going to revert back to Mombasa. The implication of that is that people who had invested in Naivasha, like Museveni, were going to suffer. So probably from Uganda, William Ruto will no longer be talking about reverting the services of the port of Mombasa. I mean, the services of the port back to Mombasa. Remember, originally, the SGR was also expected to go through Kisumu, Uganda. That now will not really happen. So probably Museveni is looking at his personal interest in Kenya. The cargo, how will cargo be transported from Mombasa to Uganda? So for me, those are some of the objectives. And lastly, I also tend to think that William Ruto is also in Uganda to thank Museveni for his support in the just concluded general election. I don't think without Museveni, Ruto would have managed to become the president of the Republic of Kenya. I'm saying so because at some point William Ruto was even, the country, President Uhuru Kenyatta even changed the currency of the Republic to from those old notes. The idea behind that was that it was expected that William Ruto had so much money in some of his private bankers. So those who speculated claimed that William Ruto actually went to Uganda with the money, exchanged them in Ugandan notes, then he would go and pick it. Again, this mathematics had conducted both election in Uganda the previous year before conducting election in Kenya. So probably Museveni had links with them. And someone was telling me that is there also possibility that IBC servers were actually in Uganda, if not IBC servers, UDA servers. And maybe William Ruto is also interested in regional integration. And because Uhuru Kenyatta was playing a central role in regional integration, so I tend to think that maybe he wants to fit right inside President Uhuru Kenyatta's shoes. I don't know what you think. Those are my take. Let us wait and see what is going to come out of Uganda. Thank you, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.